It's a funny thing. I've been thinking a lot about rupture and breakage and things falling apart. There's that wonderful famous novel by Chinua Achebe called Things Fall Apart. And it's part of a trilogy. And the final part of the trilogy is No Longer at Ease. And it seems to represent what we're trying to do in this piece, and also something about the condition we find ourselves in today, where it's with the pandemic and with massive changes in the way people consider themselves and their positions, climate change, all kinds of things. We're in a position where if we are at ease, we're a little crazy. We're just whistling in the dark, as they say. And so breaking has that sensibility about it. Things are kind of breaking. And the other part of it is, what does it sound like in the music? Well, I went back to a methodology that I hadn't visited since maybe 2013. The idea of having integral repetition in the pieces. So the idea is that both the flow of things is broken, but also sustained. There's a sense of instability I'm trying to maintain, sort of, a subliminal psychological sense where people shouldn't feel complacent in listening to this music. They should feel a little bit like, well, where are things going? Where am I? Is this my wife bought me a wonderful book about Anton Wilhelm Amo, the Afro-German philosopher. The title is something Philosoph ohne festen Wohnsitz. That means he doesn't have a real place, which isn't really true. But the idea is that if we think that we're actually, we're a little too complacent if we think that maybe artists should be striving to avoid having this kind of festen Wohnsitz, this idea that we know where we are and it's all very stable. It's like there's a TV show called Cheers, where in the US, which went off the air many years ago, but it's the place where you come to this bar and everybody knows your name. Well, I go to a lot of places where people have no idea who I am and they're a little suspicious and they're wondering why I should actually be there. And so, this is the sense that I'm trying to produce in this piece. I have to have something be about something before I can start writing.
Yeah.
It can be very open, but once I have the theme, and it might not just be for one piece either. There was a previous generation of works where I was thinking about adornment after the fashion of Zora Neale Hurston and her characteristics of Negro expression. And so, not to imitate what went on in Zora Neale Hurston's time musically, but to conceptually migrate toward the idea that if we're thinking about adornment as a principle of, let's say, Afro-diasporic expression, where you get decorations on top of decorations on top of decorations. So once that starts to work its way into the music, what you get is, once again, a sense of instability, a sense of things kind of shaking, and it's a very complex. The sounds become much more complex, and so it's sort of an offshoot of that. First of all, I had a list of the images for the True Pictures exhibition. I don't think there's any real way that one can compose a work in response to an entire exhibition. That's impossible. So as I recall, in last spring, about a year ago, when I came to Hanover, and I visited the Sprengel Museum, and this wonderful person took us all around the museum, which is a fantastic museum. And we talked about the True Pictures exhibition, and in particular, a piece by Stan Douglas, the Canadian film artist, theater director, who I've known for many years and who I've been in some of his pieces. And I've just finished a 15,000 word article, because I'm still writing words as well as music, on his relationship with music, which is very intense. And so, in a very loosely defined way, I think the piece that is of Stan's that is in the exhibition is about Angola, I think. It's this incredible piece. He's a great orchestrator, I found out. So when you look at the visual orchestration of the piece, it has kinships with how I operate in terms of my own orchestration of the sounds. But again, it's very hard to make a direct connection. So I wouldn't think of Breaking as a soundtrack for Stan's music, for Stan's video work. I was going to say music, but because in fact, one of his pieces, he makes his own rondo arrangement of Beethoven piano sonata, Beethoven's last piano sonata. So he's very familiar with music. And so the kinship is there, even if I wasn't able to make a direct connection. And in fact, to be honest, I wasn't able to finish this piece until I finished the 15,000 word piece about Stan Douglas. It was sort of holding me up. And once I got it done, then the ideas for breaking started to flow. I write music in order to learn things. And something that an instrument I knew very little about was the accordion. And so there is this wonderful German accordionist, Eva Zöllner. And even though she's not in the piece, I mean, she's written a book on the accordion and she's given lectures at my university, Columbia University, on the accordion. And so I regard her as someone who has taught me a lot. And so in a way, I wanted to show what I'd learned. I mean, I didn't do everything that she knows how to do. It didn't need to do that. But it seems the accordion, there's a sense of it's like analog electronics. What you find in a lot of contemporary music, particularly percussion music, is that there's an electronic sound ideal that's kind of embedded in the traditions for many years. I would say, in a way, if you could look at a piece like Varèse's Ionization as a kind of a synthesizer before the fact, although there were already synthesizers at the time of Varèse, but still the idea of him creating sounds using a set of instruments and along the lines that one might create sounds with an analog as distinct from a digital synthesizer, not so much cutting and pasting, but sort of sculpting. So, and trombone, I mean, I was a trombone player, so that's not so unusual. I wanted to make it sound as if the trombone player really didn't know how to play the instrument, because that his technical capabilities were broken. Everyone sounds a little broken in this piece. I want to thank everyone for doing it. It's just great to be able to come to Hanover again and to be able to listen to music and communicate with everyone and work with Stefan Meyer and everybody. It's going to be a great experience, I think.